Ladies and gentlemen, it is CT Brown, and this is Pulse of the Ring. With me tonight, we have someone who has held a tag team champion five times, five times, five times. He has held titles in Noble Championship Group, Destiny World Wrestling, Crossbody Pro Wrestling, and has held a six-man tag team championship in Pro Wrestling Eclipse. He is a member of Dynasty. Ladies and gentlemen, Jaxon Roy. How are you today, my friend?
What up? What up? What up? Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great. You know, Dynasty, we're doing our thing out here. And yeah, man, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, no worries. I just had Mikey on maybe 2, 3 days ago. So
Okay.
nice little conversation with him. And then
Hmm.
as soon as I saw that and then I saw your name, I was like, oh snaps. The same group. I love it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we're so happy to be on. You guys, we're so happy that you're giving us this platform to talk and share our story. So, I'm sure Mikey's told us a lot about the group, but
Mhm.
maybe this time I can give you my side of the story.
Oh yeah. I want to ask, how is the weather up there? Because I know you guys are from Ontario, Canada, and it's cold here in Indiana. Like we got 13 inches of snow, and the whole state has been going bonkers. But I know Canada's on a whole different level.
We're on a totally different level, man. The weather out here is just, you know how it is. You hear it all the time. Canada, it's super cold up here. And like past couple of days, it's just been freezing. Like we've had just centimeters on top of centimeters of snow out here. It's just freezing cold. Like schools are shut down because, it's a snow day and the kids can't go to school. The buses are shut down. It's just crazy out here, man. But we're Canadians, like we're used to it, and we just push through the best way we can.
See, I am from Indiana, but like for the last few years, I was living in Florida. So getting
Man.
this snow, I'm like, because last year we had a decent like snow, but this year it really hit us. And I always tell my nieces and nephews, I'm like, y'all don't know about the real snow when I was younger. We had snow
Yeah,
super high. We could go sledding, blah, 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 blah. Now that
yeah,
I'm an adult and we get that snow, I'm like, oh, I hate it.
man. You went from Florida to Indiana, man. Like, do you guys even get snow in Florida? Like, that's like a whole different experience for you.
The past few years, it snowed up in the upper parts of Florida, like that's
Okay.
closer to like Atlanta, Georgia, and everything. But
Okay.
I lived in Orlando, so it was like in the middle of the state. So it really didn't snow there. It got cold, but it didn't snow. And like the further south you go, like Miami, it's not gonna snow.
Yeah, man. That's crazy, Like Florida is definitely a place I'd like to be right now, but we'll get there when we get there.
Oh yeah,
Trust me.
tons of
Can't
rest.
stand this cold, man. It's too damn cold.
So I want to know, how did you find professional wrestling?
That's a great question to start. So I've been watching professional wrestling for I think it has to be up to 20 over 20 years now. My mom was actually a big wrestling fan growing up. She actually went to WrestleMania 6 in Toronto.
Oh,
So she was always like a big wrestling fan, and she would always have it on every now and then. And growing up, I'd look at the TV and I would like, huh, what is that? This looks cool because it's like real guys fighting. Growing up, I was always into like, Power Rangers, the Ninja Turtles, the Dragon Ball Z's, like anime, cartoon. Yep, I see it. Anime, cartoon fighting shows. So I was always into the fighting. And when I seen like real athletes, real people fighting, it really like caught my eye and intrigued me. It was like, yo, what is this? What is this? This is like something I've never seen before. And growing up, I was really a big fan of Booker T. He's my GOAT. He's my favorite wrestler of all time. And when I first saw him, that's when I was cooked with wrestling. Guys like Booker T, Rob Van Dam, Chris Jericho, Edge. Also, like I wasn't just a WWE fan, I was a TNA fan.
okay.
So I also grew up watching like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Senshi in TNA, America's Most Wanted, Beer Money. I watched all those guys growing up, and just watching those guys really inspired me to eventually get into the wrestling business. But yeah, it just started with me watching wrestling with my mom, and my sister got into it a little bit.
Mhm.
She kind of got the tough end of it. Sometimes you grow up, you do your wrestling moves on your siblings, so she definitely got that. And I grew up, I went to school, and I also met like other fans of wrestling. I met friends through wrestling. I would bring like my new wrestling shirt to school, and then I would meet a new friend who would say, "Oh, hey, I'm a wrestling fan. You watch WWE? I like WWE." And then from that, we would just become friends. And, we would go to each other's house, have birthday parties. Everyone's wrestling. We're doing all that craziness, the stuff that they tell you not to do at home, but we did all of that. Um, so yeah, that's just kind of how it started for me.
Uh, I tell people, it's like I don't remember how initially I started watching professional wrestling. I just remember ever since I turned on the TV and I saw Shawn Michaels kick Bret Hart when he was in the wheelchair. Ever since then, I was hooked on it, and it. I loved wrestling so much growing up that my parents. I got in trouble for, I believe, cheating on a spelling test, and my parents didn't ground me. They didn't whoop me. All they said was, "I can't watch professional wrestling for like 2
Oh,
and
that's tough.
that was tough, especially
Yeah.
because World War III. Because I was a WCW, WWF guy.
Yeah.
WCW had just had their World War III pay per view, and obviously I couldn't buy the pay per view, so I'm like, but I gotta see what happened. I gotta see. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it was like, when growing up, I really wanted to watch all of Monday Night Raw. Like Monday Night Raw came on at 9 o'clock. My
yeah,
mom only let me watch like half an hour of it. So I'd watch half an hour, but when she would go downstairs, I would be like watching the TV at like the lowest volume so she wouldn't catch me watching the rest of Monday Night Raw. So I had to do all that just to catch an episode. So like yeah, man, it's the stuff we used to do when we were kids just to like catch wrestling. There's wrestling, everywhere, and like we were so addicted to it and so obsessed with it. And I would say like yeah, today it's really I still have that love for it, I still have that love for professional wrestling.
so for me, it was what made me decide, yes, professional wrestling is something I want to pursue, was when I saw the Undertaker throw Mankind off the Hell in a Cell. Don't know why that, like, I always wanted to do that spot. Now that I wrestled for like 6.5 years when I was in Florida.
Yeah.
Like, now that I know so much that I know, I'm like, that's a really stupid spot.
Trust me, I bet.
But what made you like, bam, I'm going to pursue this. I want to pursue professional wrestling. What was it that made you think that?
I don't know exactly like what it was, but like I said, like I was a fan of it my whole life, and I always like had the back of my mind, or even the front of my mind, like I'm gonna be a professional wrestler one day. Like
Mhm.
one day I'm gonna be a pro wrestler. I told my mom about it. She didn't really believe in me doing it until like I went to high school where I pursued amateur wrestling. But like before that, I told her like all the time, like I'm gonna be a professional wrestler. I told all my friends, I told all my teachers, I'm going to be a pro wrestler. And then when I went to high school, I started doing amateur wrestling. And what really got me into that was like growing up seeing guys like Kurt Angle, Shelton Benjamin, Brock Lesnar, like they came from the amateur wrestling ranks and got into WWE. So like I wanted to kind of follow that.
Yeah.
So when I got to high school, I started doing amateur wrestling. I did it all through my high school experience and even a little bit after my high school experience. Um, and that's when my mom was like, okay, uh, you're actually taking this really seriously. You're actually getting into combat sports and you're taking it seriously. So I think it was like, I don't know exactly at the specific moment, but I think it's just like I always wanted to be a professional wrestler because I felt like it just gave me some sort of purpose in life. Just like chasing a dream, going for it, and hopefully one day making it to the big time.
So how did you? and Mikey come up? I know you guys have another member of Dynasty, but how
Yes,
did you
sir.
guys come up with Dynasty?
So I started pro wrestling in 2020. So I started during the pandemic times, man, and trust me, it was rough. Things were shut down. A lot of things were just, not no one really knew what was going on. But I saw a post, like a free trial post that said 1 week free trial training at Battle Arts Academy, which is based out of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and it's ran by Santino Morella. And I saw that and I was like, this is a sign. This is
Mhm.
a sign for me to finally get into professional wrestling. So when I finally signed up and I started, Mikey Truth was one of the first guys I met. He was so kind to me and just, very social and open to me. We both have the same background and like we both have Caribbean backgrounds,
Mhm.
cultural backgrounds. So that's also what kind of connected us. But he was so nice to me and cool with me. We both gelled by, grappling around a little bit. He has a little bit of a grappling background, so he wanted to grapple with me, and from that we kind of became close. And it wasn't leading into like one of our first big shows at Battle Arts that he came to me about Dynasty. He had a mind of always creating a faction and a group. So he came to me one day and he was like, "Hey, like, I know we have our show coming up. I was thinking that at this show, I'd like to debut this group, this faction that I had in mind, going back from him playing WWE video games, creating a group." And he came to me and said, "What would you think about being the original members?" And I was super excited because keep in mind, like, this is like my first couple of months getting into wrestling. And if you're coming into me saying, like, I'm going to be in a faction, a group, I'm jumping on that. Because like I grew up, I loved DX, I loved Evolution, later on Bullet Club, all of those factions. I loved watching those guys. So for me to be a part of a faction would be icing on the cake, or cherry on the cake. So he asked me about it. I said, yes, let's do it. From there, we started going over like what is Dynasty? Like, what are we gonna look like? What is the theme song? What are we about? What's our mission statement? And from that, we were just going over like theme songs. We chose the Jay-Z theme song at one point. It was kind of like from his old album, The Dynasty. So we used that song for a little bit. Our mission, our motto is make history, leave a legacy. We want to make history everywhere and leave pro wrestling better than when we found it. And overall, our group is kind of like like a music label, like a Odd Future or like a Wu-Tang. That's kind of like what Dynasty is. Like we're kind of all different individuals coming together as one to to make history and leave a legacy. That's pretty much what we are. And yeah, that's kind of how we started. And ever since that first debut match, we kind of just been like knocking down the door, man, just knocking down the walls and trying to like accomplish everything that we set out to accomplish. Like you said in the beginning of the episode, all those championships that we won. We just been working so hard and it's just great to see that we're still going strong 5 years later.
So working or beginning wrestling in 2020. I've talked to another wrestler a few months ago, and he said one of the issues with after the pandemic and everything was there wasn't that great of like leadership in the locker room. What,
Mm.
especially where you guys are, how is the like veteran leadership in you guys' locker room?
At the time, like, yeah, like it was tough because like there wasn't a lot of people like at the gym training just because like you really weren't supposed to. At the time, we were lucky enough to run into Isaiah Bronson, who's also an indie wrestler. He actually lived in Battle Arts. Like, he lived at the gym, and he was so kind to us to open the gym for us to just to train and get some training after hours or during we're not supposed to be outside, but he opened the door for us. So he was kind of like the locker room leader at the time, just because he had more experience than us. He really taught us like the basics of pro wrestling, like running the ropes, taking bumps, and just kind of maneuvering a little bit through the scene. So he really helped us out a lot, as well as like our coaches that was there at the time, Nick Andrews, also known as Stone Rockwell, and Silk Smooth. Those are our two main trainers. We've had so many trainers throughout like the years of us wrestling, but like those are our two main trainers. They really were the ones that taught us like the basics. They broke us in. And they were kind of like the guys that we looked up to just to teach us the way. We also had a lot of veterans at the time, from when Battle Arts first opened, like Carew, John Gonzalez. These are kind of like guys who first started when Battle Arts opened the doors. So they were kind of like the guys that kind of like taught us the way, taught us the ropes, and just, taught us the business.
So, what is some of the best advice any of them have given you guys?
The best advice. Um, I would say just kind of uh just stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. It sounds basic, but stay in your lane and do you. A lot of people want to compare themselves to other wrestlers. A lot of people want to like, you know, just see this guy and be like, oh, like, why did he get that opportunity? Or why did she get that opportunity? I should be there. That's my spot. But you also just need to remember is like, everything happens for a reason and everyone has their own path, and just stick to your own path and just keep grinding. Nick Andrews is really the one that taught us about like this business is not fair. A lot of things can happen to you in this business that you'll kind of look at like, ah, man, I hate this business. It's not fair. Why me? Why us?
Mhm.
But like you just have to like stick to the grind and keep working. Be different. That's another good advice. It's like just be different. A lot of people, they take things from other wrestlers and they just copy them. And you just want to like stand out and be different. And you get that through being a character, showing character work. Um, your entrance music. We're seeing now in this day more than ever that entrance music is so important. We're seeing it with Ricky Sosa. We're seeing it with like Kit Wilson. Like we're seeing like theme music is so important. Your entrance is so important. So that's another thing that Nick Andrew Stone Rocco taught us. Like everything outside of the ring is just as important, if not more, than what you do in the ring.
So, because my one of my favorite things was just coming out. So, I had way too many songs that I would come out to. It also depend on. I always had a flash disc with my song on it. Sometimes, for some reason, people just couldn't get it. But I came out to like J Cole, "Blow Up,"
Yeah, nice.
"In the Air Tonight," and then "Be Humble" by it's the rock version. And
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, I know that.
I was like, that was the big thing about me is like I'm all about as soon as I come through those curtains, like I'm hype.
Hmm.
I'm cut. Depending on if I'm a face or a heel, honestly, I prefer to be a heel. I love
Hmm.
being a heel, but it's always trying to get that character work. Yeah, I didn't have the best gear, but to me, it's not always about the gear because sometimes you need that person who's just playing and that's your character. Like they used to call me a creative character because it's like I had a lot of good moves, but my gear was shit. And I was
Ah,
I I I want to be able to tell a story, and I know, like you said, be different. I was like, I am different with just a singlet, some wrestling boots, and just some knee pads because I refuse to wear.
exactly.
It is like just be myself, but turned up. Then I ended up buying me gear, and everything I had was anime related. And I was like, damn, I should have got me my gear a whole long time ago.
Yeah.
Then I had so many different like if I was a heel, I would be a member of the Akatsuki. I would have gear like uh basically you would know if I was a heel or a face because my gear would show it. But then,
Right.
my body just kind of gave up on me because I did wrestling for 6, 7 years. I was in the military for 6 years, and then my body was just like, it's time to give it up. But I miss it. I'll be at work pantomiming moves, and I work at a hospital, and there's multiple times where my coworkers will look at me like, "What are you doing? We might need to put you up on a psychiatric floor." And I'm like,
Ah.
about me, I'm just wrestling. Even when I'm laying in bed, I'm thinking of spots, I'm thinking of moves, and I want to get back to like I don't know, either not necessarily running my own school because that's a lot. I don't want to own my own promotion because that's more of a headache than running your own school. But just trying to give back to wrestlers because I'm very knowledgeable. I was trained by Ricardo Rodriguez and Lince Dorado.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
a little bit of what I'm talking about, but it's just I know if I take that bump, I'm like, oh, I could take another bump, and then
Hmm.
50 more bumps. I'm like, I can keep doing this, and
Hmm.
I can't. Whew,
I'm
wrestling
telling
drug,
you.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it's addicting, man. Like, it's you never really kind of like give up of wrestling, Like, it always tries to like bring you back in, but there's like so much different avenues to take in wrestling. It doesn't necessarily just have to be as a wrestler, There's commentary, there's, refereeing, there's, managing. There's just so much different avenues that you can take, coaching. So, there's other ways to like still stay into the pro wrestling business. But yeah, like once you're a wrestler, you get that thrill of the crowd, it's hard to let go. So I definitely feel you on that. But actually, before I forget, like another piece of advice that was taught to us by Santino Marella is like, especially being Canadians, you have to leave. You have to leave. You have to go out. You got to travel. You can't just stay here. He's like, I'm not gonna hold your hand. I know I've been in WWE. I'm currently in TNA, but you guys got to go out and you got to make a name for yourself and you guys got to travel. So being Canadian, it's tough on us just because it's like it's not easy for us to kind of cross the border and go into the States to wrestle. There can be complications with that, but we can go to the UK and wrestle and just travel all over Europe. But it's just that's the thing you got to do. You got to leave. You can't just stay in your local area and wrestle, especially if you want to really make a splash in the scene. So me and Mikey and Dynasty, we just try to do our best to kind of like get out there to the States, especially during like WrestleMania weekend, SummerSlam weekend. Like we did that last year a lot. And we just try to go out there, not even just to get booked. Sometimes we go out there just to train and
Yeah,
like hit up a couple schools. Like we've trained um at Create a Pro in New York. We trained there. So that's run by Kurt Hawkins.
okay,
That's run by him. So we train out there. We also train at Battle Club in New York. Um, so we went to there and like, we're planning, I'm planning actually to like go train with Booker in a couple months. So I'm planning on making the trip to Houston to
okay.
do that. So it's just about getting yourself out there and just traveling, if you have the time and if you have the means to make it happen, you have to make it happen, man. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. And so that's like a good advice that's been taught to us from the vets.
That's something, especially when I was in Florida, that a lot of people didn't get because WC or not WCW, WWE's had NXT there. TNA was always filming
Mhm.
shows at Universal, and then obviously AEW came and they're in Jacksonville. So
Mhm.
everybody would think like, "Oh, I need to come to Florida so I can be seen." But
Mhm.
on the indie part of it, you start getting the same different promotion, but you start getting the same people wrestling the same people,
Ah.
wrestling the same people. So you're not being able to be seen, and most of the time, no one wanted to travel. If they did travel, they would go to Georgia or the Carolinas because it's close. But like with me, I when I lived in Florida, we drove to Detroit for a show. drove down to Indiana, stayed with my parents for a little bit, drove to Chicago for another show in MLW, and then we drove back. And that was all within, I want to say, 2.5, 3 days. And granted, that it was tiring, but that's
Hmm.
the thing that even our trainers like, you can't stay local. Staying local is only going to make you a local legend, and there's so many of those people. Like I wanted to go to the West Coast. I really wanted to go to Korea, obviously Japan and Mexico and the UK, but honestly, I just couldn't get out there. But it is what it is. But yes, like you said, traveling, traveling is the best way to network. It's the best way to just find a different avenue or approach for moves and storytelling. And just like you said, also there's a lot of people who will go out and be like, "Oh, I'm not going to this place unless I'm booked on the show." Sometimes it is just going out there and training or helping with the ring. You never know. That's basically just networking. You never know what's going to lead to something greater.
Absolutely. You never know. Like it's all about networking and just, meeting new people. And you don't know what's gonna come from that. Just last year, me and Mikey and one of the other wrestlers, his name is Take It Easy Joey. We're usually the three that travel together.
Mhm.
And we just traveled to Buffalo, New York to help out at Fourth Rope.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so we West Side Guns promotion, and just from that, just from us showing up early, and talking to some of the wrestlers that we've kind of interacted with in the past, or we've been on shows with, like AJ Francis, Zilla Fatu, Mo Jabari. We've interacted with them in the past, so when they saw us at Fourth Rope, just from that. I was lucky enough to be given an opportunity to wrestle in their dark match on Fourth Rope. Um, Big shout out, big thanks to Mo Jabari for setting that up for me. They were looking for a wrestler to wrestle AGZ, who is now known as Mr. Elegance on
okay,
TNA. They were looking for an opponent for him for the show, and Mo Jabari, also known as Kid Chocolate out in Calgary, he turned to MVP, and he's like, yo, like, take a look at this guy, pointing to me. He's like, he's pretty solid in the ring, maybe him. And MVP looked to me. He was like, yo, how long you been working? I said 4 or 5 years. He's like, you got your gear? I said, yes, sir. He's like, boom, okay, you're gonna be wrestling tonight. And just like that, from us showing up and just being respectful and just showing that we're here for a helping hand, if need be, you can get a huge opportunity from that. And that was one of the most nerve-wracking experience I've ever had because it was so unexpected. And obviously, like MVP, he's a legend, and he's looking at you, he's producing your match, he's talking to you. So that was a nerve-wracking experience, but I was very, very, very grateful for being able to get that experience. But yeah, you never know what can happen, man. Just show up, network,
and always here
have your gear ready,
and wash it,
and
wash that.
wash your gear, please. Wash your gear, wash your knee pads. And just yeah, like, yeah, you never know what can happen. So it's definitely a lesson for everybody. I have my real name, and then I have my wrestling name. Kind of like a superhero. Like there's Clark Kent, and there's Superman. You know what I mean? Um, so I kind of just always liked that. So when I first started wrestling, I was trying to think like, oh, what's a good name for me? Um, when it comes to the word Jackson, I always liked Jax from Mortal Kombat.
Oh, I was just gonna think that. I was thinking,
Yeah, man. And it's cool because I have a video game, another game I forgot to mention, Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe. I have that game for PS3, and one night I was just playing it, I was just playing the game, and I was in the selection menu when you pick the characters, and I heard Jax.